The following podcast contains adult language and themes, so don't say we didn't fucking warn you.
You're listening to SarahTalk. It's political.
Whatever the condition is in their home country is so bad that they're willing to go through that long, arduous trek to get here, where we've promised this American dream idea. The least we could fucking do is when they knock on our door or help them.
Critical.
Look, whenever there's someone coming after my community, they are either wearing a MAGA hat, carrying a Bible, or more often both.
And positively LGBT positive.
In many states, you can still be evicted from housing simply for being gay or transgender. Stand and fight with us.
Oh, and occasionally completely absurd.
Oh, they're shutting us down. They're deplatforming us. I knew a pretty good Alex Jones once. Return the frogs gay!
Okay, you're sleeping in a child's room tonight, because there's no way you're sleeping next to me. That is disgusting. I'm going to have nightmares.
And now, from Orlando, Florida, your host, Sarah Austin.
Hey everybody, welcome to SarahTalk. I'm your host, Sarah Austin. The lovely Becca.
Hello.
It is episode 151 of SarahTalk.
What?
February 2nd.
No, it's not.
In the year of our Lord, 2019.
Well, I didn't realize it was going to be that show.
Well.
Everybody, we're on the delay, so everybody's muting there.
Yeah. So, hey, before we get into the news and stuff, last weekend, we had our first informal, formal meeting of the folks who have joined our community group, the Atheist community of Polk County.
Yeah, we had fun.
It was a blast. We had a great time.
Even though it was nasty weather and rainy outside, and we had to change venues.
Yeah. Yeah, we were going to be at the park, and then it was freezing and rainy and disgusting. And so
who wants to go jump in puddles?
We decided not to do
We're
that.
not Peppa Pig.
No. So yeah, all the people that came over, appreciate that. That was a great time. Love for your hair in the chat.
Dan, I did it today. Thank you.
Excuse me?
Oh, okay. Sarah helped me. I started it, and then she finished it.
And then I fixed it.
You did? Such a bitch.
But it does look good. I like that.
I like it. I'm liking it.
Yeah.
I'm going to put one pink streak right here.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. I've still got the pink stuff in the closet in the bathroom, so I'm thinking like just right there. Just maybe an inch wide.
Can you stop hitting that?
No, I cannot.
So anyway, all you do is make more editing work for me.
Dan, that was
so
a great screenshot, by the way, if you get it. I saw it out of the corner of my eye. I'm like...
And now you have two options.
You have two options.
You have the original or the replay. So I wanted to mention, while this show is not going to be affiliated with the group necessarily, if you are listening in from Polk County, Florida, and you are an atheist, agnostic, freethinker, skeptic, humanist sort of person, and you want to join our group, we would love to have you. It's a private Facebook group right now, so if you join, people can't see that you're joined for your privacy. The Facebook group's name is a little different than the actual community group's name, but if you go to polkatheists.org, you can get links to the Facebook group and all of that stuff too. We'd love to have you. We have so much like on the plans. The whiteboard is the size of the wall from one end of the country to the other on the Mexican border.
We're going to need another whiteboard.
We have so many things that we want to do in the community. So, and it's great. We've met some awesome people.
It's been good.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed it.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm having fun. I'm excited about where it's going.
Yeah.
Dan asked if I'm still planning a post-wedding buzz cut. Not sure, Dan. I still don't know what I'm doing before the wedding. The wedding. Speaking of wedding.
Not sure what you're doing at the appointment that you have in a week or two.
My girls that are getting married are in the chat tonight. Shout out to K-Bay. You have input on my hair. I'm just intending. I don't have to actually. I'm reading, but.
Right.
I don't know.
So, we have a large stack of stories to get through tonight. And I wanted to start out by talking about there's a schism in the LGBTQ community here in Florida. And if you're local here, you've probably seen this. But there are two bills that are being considered in the Florida legislature that I want to kind of talk about. And I've often lamented that there are people whose identity falls into a marginalized community, and then like they look at other marginalized communities and turn a cold shoulder, right? How many times have we talked about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get, okay, gay marriage is a thing now, but that doesn't mean we stop fighting,
Right.
right? We have the women's right to vote, but that means you don't stop fighting, right? Because oppression continues in those groups
Mm-hmm.
and others. And if the similar experience of our communities having dealing with that discrimination and oppression should bring us together to fight for common causes. And so within the LGBTQ community, there's division where like the LGB needs to get their shit together and unite for the T.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the break is right now in Florida. There are two competing anti-discrimination bills that have been filed in the Florida legislature. So we'll walk through both of them. And the primary, any idea what the primary difference between the two might be?
I don't even want to guess, to be honest. I am not really good at that game.
The Florida Competitive Workforce Act, FCWA, okay?
Okay.
This is the one we've been trying to pass for nearly a decade that would ban discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity in employment, public accommodations, and housing. Right. The Florida Inclusion Workforce Act, FIWA. This one was filed by the head of the Florida Republican Party, Senator Joe Gruters. The FIWA would ban discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity too, but only when it comes to employment.
Mm-hmm.
No public accommodations or housing. And, of course, we know public accommodations is code for trans people in the restroom.
Right.
Among other things.
Sure.
Gruter's argument is he wants to pass a bill, not make a point, and that by not including broader protections for trans people, it's more likely to pass. Groups like the ACLU of Florida, National Center for Lesbian Rights, the Task Force, and Equality Florida are supporting the more robust FCWA, and they argue that Gruter's bill doesn't go far enough. Equality Florida wrote in a blog post that pushing an anti-discrimination bill without public accommodations language is an effort to, quote, appease arguments that transgender people are bathroom predators or pose a risk to others, end quote. And Gruter's taking shit from conservatives for even filing a pro-LGBT bill at all. John Stemberger, president of the...
You mean Birder?
Birder. President of the Florida Family Policy Council declared that his bill goes too far and will be used as a weapon to punish Christians for simply acting out their faith. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, just imagine the implosion that's happening in the Florida Republican Party. Why would their Republican even file a pro-LGBT bill?
No. They want everything to, as Dan pointed out in the comments, reverse all the advancements that have already been made in the LGBT community.
No, absolutely. And Stemberger is not just opposing Gruter's bill. He's calling on the lawmaker to step down from his position as the Republican Party Florida chair, writing, quote, the bill is also clearly in opposition to the express principles of the Republican Party platform. Further, Gruter's is totally out of step with the base of the GOP. Now, he's not wrong. We read through the Florida or the national GOP party platform, which includes the, marriage is defined as one man and one woman, and so on and so forth. So the question is then, and this is what's causing the community to split, right? Do we support partial protections? Because the concern is if we push for the full protection bill, it will, like for the number of years that we've tried to pass it, fail? Is it good enough to get a little bit now and then keep working? What are your thoughts? I'll tell you mine in a minute. But
I mean, on one hand, I think you take what you can get because these people are asshats and they're not going to give you anything.
Right.
But then I think if you give in and you're showing weakness and they could exploit that. But I don't know. I guess I'm kind of torn.
There's the optics of the thing is like, by even considering a bill that doesn't include full protections makes it seem like some of these protections are even up for debate.
Right.
Right. And when we're talking about civil rights are not up for debate.
Right.
Right. It's not like, oh, I mean, we've done this before, right? Oh, black people, sorry we owned you, and now we're not going to do that anymore. But you still can't, use our restrooms and drinking fountains and own your own businesses and all of this bullshit. Right. We've played this game before.
Right.
And that's why I think I come down on the side of like, no, full stop.
Right.
It is either a full protections package or we walk away. And if that doesn't pass, then we have to, get into the grassroots and motivate the voters to give a damn about this.
Right.
So I'm on the side of full protections. Again, like, just having the two bills on the floor at the same time, makes it like this is a negotiable thing. And any of the LGBTQ organizations that have supported the Republicans' version of the bill, I think, should lose the support of the trans community until they get their shit together.
Yeah. You have consensus in the chat.
Good.
I'm not sure if it's Rachel or Keith watching because they have a shared Facebook account, but they said, go big or go home, fight all the way.
Yes.
So.
Amen. So second, like, this idea of, oh, well, we're going to get some rights now and we'll keep working for the others, that's just absurd. If we take this 1964 Civil Rights Act as our template, right, which is basically what we need to be amending on a federal level, first of all. But we're not going to accept this. Okay, well, you get your employment protections now, but we'll have to, we'll go back to the table and keep talking about this other stuff. I don't accept that. And the last case I want to make is to allies. If you are a cisgender heterosexual person here in Florida, you don't identify as trans in any way, but you feel like you're an ally and you want to support us, okay? This message is for you. Now is the time to speak out. You have to be the ones to write letters to the editor and call your representatives in Congress and say, hi, my name is Julie and I'm a cisgender straight woman and I have no problem sharing restrooms with trans women. Statistics show we are safe to share so-called women's-only spaces. Giving transgender people equal rights has been demonstrated safe. In places where protections have already been written into law, there has been no measurable increase in violence or sexual assault. The trans restroom predator myth is not based in fact, but unfounded, unreasoned, unscientific fear. Vote yes for the Florida Competitive Workforce. You need to make that call. We can make that call all day long. But we're the weird tranny freaks to a lot of the lawmakers that are considering this thing. They haven't taken the time to meet with people and understand what their experiences are like. And if the only voices they're hearing are, the angry conservative Christian moms who are, I don't want to have my daughter in the bathroom with her. You have to be the voice. You have to step up for us. Flood the local papers with supportive letters. If you call into radio stations when they're debating on this, call your elected officials and express your support as someone from outside the transgender community. That's how we move the needle on this. They need to see that there is a vast majority, and the polling shows this, the vast majority of Americans support equality. You have to be vocal. Because otherwise it's just this small, weird group of people making some racket,
Right.
you know?
Your Cambridge Analytical survey isn't going to do anything, but a
Right.
call to your...
Right?
You have to call. You have to make that call.
And
Or write that
finally,
letter.
an appeal to the atheist community. When equal rights are under attack, atheists have to show up. Our fight to protect church-state separation really just boils down to protection of equality. We believe religion shouldn't have preferential treatment, shouldn't be exempt from the law. And let me say it again, whenever there's an attack on the transgender community, it's coming from someone wearing a MAGA hat, holding a Bible, or more often both. Atheists have to be vocal allies of the queer community over these common goals of equal treatment under the law. Again, this goes back to that whole thing of if you exist in any marginalized community but can't see the value of why you need to reach out to other marginalized communities and be a part of this solution, then I don't know what else to say to you.
Kaylin says last week her middle school students were having a debate about trans rights. She says they have your back and so do I.
Excellent. And kids usually get it.
Kids,
You know, like, how many times have we had that conversation?
it's so funny because, you know, you hear, oh my God, my children, how am I going to explain this to my children?
Right.
With honesty and normalization usually does the trick.
Yeah. Yeah. You'd be surprised what your kids have. Oh, okay. Yeah. Chicken nuggets done?
Yeah, right, exactly. That's all they care about.
Right.
They really
No,
don't care.
I told you I wanted barbecue sauce, not
Yeah.
ketchup.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
not gonna freak out because, you know. Okay.
Meanwhile, in Indiana,
Ooh.
Republican Representative and Elvis impersonator Bruce Borders
Oh, this guy.
just introduced a bill that would require students at public and charter schools to use the restroom associated with their, quote, biological sex. Let's take a look at Bruce there.
Check this out.
I assume this was when he was running for office. At some point, he's got
It says
Bruce
state.
Borders, state representative. Yeah, state rep.
Yeah,
Whew.
that's
That-
just fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, no kink shaming. If, you know, being an Elvis impersonator is a thing that does it for you, then go for it. But
I just think it's hilarious. Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome. His term, of course, and he defines this, the biological sex. This is his language, which he defines as, of course, determined by an individual's chromosomes and identified at birth by the individual's anatomy. It would also ban transgender students from participating in athletics programs for their gender, forcing trans boys to play on girls' teams and trans girls to play on boys' teams. Now, we addressed this issue in very great depth and detail back on episode 126 with trans athlete and educator Chris Mosier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't want to rehash all of that stuff, but go
Listen to it.
listen to that.
It's a great conversation.
So in 2017, Elvis introduced a bill that would have banned.
Like, he's cross-dressing as Elvis, technically.
I mean,
and I only say that because I've known some Elvis impersonators in my life, and when they're doing their bits, they believe that they are Elvis. I can't even do it with a straight face.
in 2017, he introduced a bill that would have banned transgender people from updating their gender marker on their birth certificates. The very next day after the bill was filed, Republican chair of Indiana's Public Health Committee declined to hear the bill in committee, which stopped it in its tracks, suggesting that public health issues of opioid and heroin addiction were far more pressing matters. No shit.
This guy's a real keeper.
Somebody had their priorities in the right order. In defending that bill, Bruce Elvis Borders said, quote, "I just respect accuracy in all legal records." End quote. Well then, sir, what would you do with the people who are born intersex, where the genitalia is so noticeably atypical that it calls for a sex determination specialist to be called in? Where do they go?
Dan, you are hilarious. He says Elvis
Oh, God.
has left the building.
According to the Intersex Society of North America, those are about 1 in 1,500 births where the genitalia is so noticeably atypical they have to call in a specialist. He says biological sex is determined by chromosomes. Well, that's a 1940s understanding of what determines sex. In 1959, we discovered XXY and just X chromosomal compositions. 1 in 1,660 births are neither XX nor XY. Where do we put those students, Elvis? Over the past 2 decades, people don't watch the feed, don't get to enjoy the antics. Over the past 2 decades, science has learned that the issue of how a fetus's sex is determined while forming is way more complex than we ever thought. There are hormonal influences, there are genetic influences, but it's just not this simple. And a lot of people feel that's a dangerous road to go down, too. Like, we've talked before, that science is showing that if you do brain scans of transgender people, they're, and compare them against cisgender people, that, like the scans of trans women resemble the brain scans of cisgender women. Mm-hmm. And same for trans men and cis men. Mm-hmm. So, there may be a specific gene that influences a child being born transgender. And, like, all of this is fascinating, but it could lead to guys like Elvis demanding brain scans and genetic testing to determine who is and who isn't transgender when seeking health care or trying to go to the restroom at school.
Which is ridiculous.
So that's a dangerous precedent. Like, we don't want to... It's...
Like, we don't do that with people that are depressed. Like, if you say I'm depressed, you don't go get a brain scan, you go get a therapist. But you're not required to prove that to anybody.
Right. But I think the danger is, like, if we if our pushback argument is like, okay, well, you're trying to determine this based on genetics. Well, genetics are more than that, and there may be identifiers. And then they could come back and go, okay, fine. Well, if you say you're trans and you want to go change your driver's license and your birth certificate, get access to hormones and surgery, instead of going to a therapist to have you evaluated through that method, right, through a talk therapy method, now we're going to go have your genes tested. Now we're going to have, you know what I mean? Like, they could push for that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, now there's a scientific marker that will tell us whether you truly are trans or not. Well, now you have to jump through that fucking hoop too, because they're all about gatekeeping.
Well, if they do that, why stop there? I'm pregnant and I got to go find out the gender of my baby. Well, we're going to DNA test it we don't get it wrong.
Right. And at the end of the day, this is just another discriminatory bill designed to defend the gender binary, because new things are scary and trans people are weird.
I'm not pregnant, by the way. It was hypothetical. I just realized I said it that way. I was like, all depressed.
There was some weird craving you had.
Oh, I was making soft pretzels, and I wanted to dip it in my General Tso's chicken sauce. It's not weird.
It's weird.
It's bread and sauce. There's nothing weird about that.
We talk a lot about the trans experience in America and the terrible way that we're treated by society largely, but we also know that trans people in other parts of the world have it even worse. You may not have known this, but Japan has a law that effectively requires transgender people to be sterilized before they can have their gender changed on official documents.
Wow.
This 2004 law states that people wishing to register a gender change must have their original reproductive organs, including testes or ovaries, removed, and have a body that, quote, appears to have parts that resemble the genital organs of the gender they want to register. That's a lot. Chew on that for a second.
No.
We're talking about it now because a 45-year-old transgender man appealed to the Japanese Supreme Court after unsuccessful attempts in lower courts to grant male recognition without surgical removal of his ovaries. Well, Japan's Supreme Court upheld that law this week in a unanimous decision by a 4-judge panel, rejecting the man's appeal. They said the law is constitutional because it was meant to reduce confusion in families and societies. But they also acknowledged that it restricts freedom and could become out of step with changing social values. So, like, they get it, I think. Like, they see that it's this, okay, this is writing's on the wall, but right now it's constitutional.
Right.
Okay. So, again, we know many people can't have these major surgeries for health reasons, or they can't afford them.
Financial reasons, or...
And we're talking about Japan, so from what I could learn in enough time to put this together for, in a week, it seems like Japan has kind of a mixture of private and public health care, and costs are generally lower there than in most developed nations. So there's that. And the part about appears to have parts that resemble the genital organs of the target gender reads to me as more than just removing parts, which is even more expensive and dangerous a surgery, and reconstruction surgeries for trans men haven't really gotten to much of a visually nor functionally realistic final product. Now, despite the ruling, which seems to be strictly on the constitutionality of the law, two of the four, added that doubts are undeniably emerging and proposed regular reviews of the law and appropriate measures, quote, from the viewpoint of respect for personality and individuality. So, again, it seems like they would be willing to, like, if their country came up with a new law that was like, okay, that was a bad idea, let's get rid of that and do something a little more progressive, that the Supreme Court would have been, like, they would be for that. Because again, like, the role of Supreme Courts is to simply, rule on the merit. Like,
Right.
So that's Japan. It's bad. It's, again, it's worse in other places.
Yeah, wow.
Right?
A lot of hoops to jump through. I thought it was bad here.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, imagine if they were like, oh, well, yep, you have to have this surgery first.
Like, I mean, for the people who want that and need that, I guess it's good. But, like, for the people who don't really necessarily feel that they need the surgery or can't afford
not everybody
the surgery,
even wants
like,
it. Right.
Just feels like, at least here, it's kind of seems like it's build your own transition.
Sort of. Except then we have this, states' rights bullshit with, like, every state has a different playbook. Right. And so, I live in Florida, and if I'm not mistaken, in Florida, you can change your birth certificate without having had surgeries. Plot twist, I wasn't born in Florida. Right. I was born in Illinois. And in Illinois, where I would have to go to update my birth certificate, they do require surgery. Bullshit. I'm
sorry. Yeah, no, you can move on. Dan, Dan did all of the research apparently for Japan healthcare.
Of course he did. Dan is our unofficial researcher.
So I was just catching up. I mean, I can read it if you'd like me to.
Sure, go ahead.
He says, the healthcare system in Japan provides healthcare services, including screening, examinations, prenatal care, and infectious disease control, with the patient accepting responsibility for 30% of these costs, while the government pays the remaining 70%. Payment for personal medical services is offered by a universal healthcare insurance system that provides relative equality of access, with fees set by a government committee. All residents of Japan are required by law to have health insurance coverage. Medical fees are strictly regulated by the government to keep them affordable. Depending on the family income,
sounds kind of good to me so
and
far.
The age of the insured patients, patients are responsible for paying 10%, 20%, or 30% of medical fees, with the government paying the remaining fee.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds very reasonable.
Okay, moving on.
Thank you, Dan.
We are calling for thoughts and prayers this week for Kentucky's former Rowan County clerk, Kim Davis. You'll recall she started a big kerfuffle in the summer of 2015 by refusing to issue marriage licenses from her office to gay couples, despite the Obergefell ruling from the Supreme Court making marriage equality a thing. She spent 5 persecuted days in jail for refusing to do her fucking job, and last year lost her bid for re-election.
Oh, sad trombone.
At the time, evangelical hucksters from all corners, including many Republican presidential candidates, rushed to her side, praising her opposition to gay marriage and turning her into a sort of folk hero. One of those supporters was Kentucky Governor Matt Bevin. In 2015, when Bevin was a candidate for governor, he said he absolutely supported her in her holy quest to oppose gays getting married. 4 years later, he's changed this tune a little bit. 4 couples sued Davis for refusing to issue them marriage licenses, but the case was resolved when the state legislature passed a law to just remove the county clerk's name from Kentucky marriage licenses. In 2017, a federal judge ruled that since Davis was acting as an agent of the state of Kentucky would be responsible for paying the nearly $225,000 in legal fees to the 4 couples.
Damn.
But Governor Bevin appealed that decision. Apparently, he supports her as long as he doesn't have to pay for her willful misconduct.
Well, you know.
Bevin's attorneys argue that since the lawsuit was dismissed, nobody should have to pay the legal fees. But, they argue, if legal fees are awarded, the county, or Kim Davis herself, not the state, should be responsible for those damages. Everyone's playing a big game of not it. The state, nose goes. The state says the county clerk's office is responsible. The county says that marriage is a state function, so the state should be responsible. Kim Davis is saying, I was acting as an official of the county. I'm not responsible.
Wow. You know what they should do is start a GoFundMe, and all the people who, thought she was right should donate to the GoFundMe and
sure.
the GoFundMe.
I mean, people will throw money at a border wall
right?
fundraiser.
We can't get water for Flint, Michigan.
Yep.
But
That's
yeah,
so
by all
fucking
means.
stupid. God, you're just going to make me mad.
I'm sorry.
On Thursday, a 3-judge panel on the U.S. Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals heard arguments in 2 cases, one over who is responsible for the nearly $225,000 in legal fees, and the other over whether Davis is immune from paying the bill herself. They just heard oral arguments, so there's no ruling down yet on that one. Okay. Quiz time.
Oh my, I didn't know there was going to be a quiz.
Sorry, I didn't warn you. From all the things you've learned on SarahTalk about church-state separation, can a public school football coach pray with the team at a game?
A public school football coach.
Yep.
Pray with the team
At a
the
game.
game. He is not allowed to say the prayer.
Mm-hmm.
He's not allowed to lead the prayer. I believe that's what the law is.
Okay.
I'm going to stick with that.
Well, they have a unique relationship to students where a prayer activity like that could be seen as coercing student participation. So obviously, no, they can't lead or direct or whatnot. There have been cases that have come down on the side of, like, even if you bow your head in deference, that shows agreement with the message and the act. And so even that could be seen as across that line.
So it's about perception.
Very much so.
Okay.
From Americans United for Separation of Church and State, Supreme Court refuses to hear a case of Washington football coach praying with students. Here's the backstory. Joe Kennedy, an assistant football coach at Bremerton High School in Washington State, insisted he had a right to pray with players and students at the 50-yard line after games. Since he was first hired during the 2008 season, Kennedy maintained a practice of leading his football team in prayer before and after games. It wasn't until 2015 when school district officials learned of this practice and directed him to stop, which, 2008 to 2015, and now suddenly we've learned of this activity? Bullshit. Somebody raised hell. That's what happened. He initially complied, praying alone after everyone left the stadium, but soon chose to alert the superintendent and the media that he intended to continue offering the prayer. He was placed on administrative leave in 2015 after receiving multiple warnings for defying the direct orders of the superintendent and creating a serious safety issue because he stirred up so much media that a literal stampede broke out on the field. The school district even offered Kennedy religious accommodations, which would allow him to either pray on the field after everyone left or pray literally anywhere else in the school without students or spectators. But instead of accepting these options, he chose not to reapply to be a coach. But you wouldn't know that to read conservative articles which make it sound like he was fired.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, he filed a federal lawsuit against the school district, demanding to be permanently hired by the school district and permitted to lead his large and very public post-game prayer gatherings. His argument, that the superintendent's intervention violated his free speech rights.
Oh.
So this week, the United States Supreme Court refused to take up Kennedy's case, which technically neither affirms nor opposes the ruling from the Ninth Circuit appellate court in favor of the school district. That they refused to take the case is technically a, no comment, but the message, I think, is clear. The case was rightly decided, or SCOTUS would have heard it.
Right.
If they had, if they thought they had the votes to, and the grounds to act on it, they would have taken the case.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Wow. Some people.
Yep. And we see these stories all the time of faculty getting involved in prayer with students. And I don't really know a lot about this town, but from my own experience, when you live in a predominantly Christian area, when there are no people of other faiths that you know of,
it's an echo chamber in itself.
It is, and everybody just thinks this is okay, and it's normal because we all do the same thing, so it must be okay. There's nobody here to complain about it. But it's not okay. Speaking of my home state.
Oh no.
Talking about schools getting in trouble. No, my old home state of Illinois is considering the Project Blitz National Motto Display Act.
Because of course they are.
Which would plaster "In God We Trust" on every school building. House Bill 341, filed by State Representative Darren Bailey, differs slightly from the Blitz model bill in that this one doesn't mandate the display, but allows for school boards to voluntarily adopt it, which I think technically they could do now with or without a law, but I'm not a lawyer, so...
Yeah, I don't know about that one. Probably, though.
Well, the messaging behind these bills has been one of patriotism and not religion, even though we all know it's Christianity. Representative Bailey didn't even try to pretend it's about anything else. Quote, "As a God-fearing Christian, I believe that the lack of such is the problem in our country today." Period, end quote. Then, to make matters worse, he expanded on this in a release posted on his website, saying, quote, "I have heard from many people around my district say for years that many of the problems we face in our communities these days is the result of an eroding of our value system on how we treat others and live our lives." Okay, so far I'm not entirely in disagreement. We could treat each other better.
Yeah, of course.
I'm with you there.
There's
so
always
far.
room for that.
Right. He continues, The most common phrase I hear is that we need to put God back in our schools to bring back common decency and help give a moral compass to our young people. This bill does just that.
Wait a minute.
Yep.
I want to know. No, I'm not going to steal your punchline. This is a legitimate question. When did we take God out of the schools? What was the timeline and when did that happen? That's seriously.
God, well,
I'm sorry.
Vamp while I load it up because I have it.
I can explain why I need to know this.
Okay.
Because I have a strong suspicion that it was also around the same time that we stopped letting teachers beat our children with rulers.
Okay, now that I can't, I can't correlate the two.
You can't, but
no.
There's a lot of things that we had to take. My point is this.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that we've had to take out of schools because they are not good for all of the kids. Now,
Right.
Some kids respond to physical discipline, but studies have proven that that's not
It's
the best,
often more
and it's
dangerous
usually
than
more
it is.
dangerous.
Right.
And studies also show that children learn better when they're not being told how to learn or what to learn necessarily. Give them a creative environment. So I don't know. I just think, like, what were we teaching in schools before we took God out of schools? And what does that statement even mean?
Well, I'm not
Like,
gonna...
is this the beginning of, and now that we have In God We Trust on the walls, now I want to start teaching Bible classes, and
Oh, and that's all coming.
and I know it's coming down the pipe, but that's what concerns me, because if I want my kid to learn the Bible, how many different versions of the Bible and different versions of religion are there? And why as a parent would I leave it up to my school to decide which version of that is the right one to teach my kid?
Right.
I don't know.
I'm going to try one more time to find that.
If not, we can just
Yeah,
look it up post-edit.
Yeah. Anyway, it's you'll have to just tune into my Project Blitz speech.
There you go.
No, there was in one of the Project Blitz bills, they cite the very first public education law in the United States, which is, I don't know how old it was, 17, 16 something. I don't know. Anywho, it basically was like, because of that old deluder Satan trying to trick our people, it's important that everyone knows how to read the Bible. And so, once your community rises to the number of 50 householders, thou shalt select one from within your community to teach all children to read and write, so that they will know how to read the Bible. Like, literally, schools in their argument through this law, literally schools were created to teach the Bible,
which is ridiculous. And this is, the conversation I had with my mom. You need to evolve with the times. If your religion isn't changing with the times, it's not growing. So,
yeah.
Okay. Go.
Where the fuck was I?
I have no idea.
Okay, so
that wasn't even a rabbit hole. That was a pothole. That was like a blur.
So he says, restoring common decency and give a moral compass, right? How does hanging "In God We Trust" signs on the wall do anything measurable for common decency or moral compasses? I need to know how this works.
No, I don't see how it works. I don't know that there's a reasonable explanation for that. I don't think he would even be able to explain that to you without...
No, probably not.
Sounding like a complete Nimrod.
Right. Like, is there a magical aura of protection that comes down upon you when you walk into the school, as long as it has the "In God We Trust" thing on it, and all of a sudden it makes you a better person?
Like,
what?
Does the atheist kid walk under the "In God We Trust" sign and fall to the ground? Like, what happens?
Right.
Like, what is it really doing? It's just words on a wall.
Right. Besides, which part of the Bible are we going to use for our kids' moral compass? The part where Abraham almost happily killed his son? The part where rape penalties depend on whether or not the woman screamed loudly enough? Where it explains who you can take as slaves and how you have to treat them, but never once suggests thou shalt not own other people? The part where God said thou shalt not kill, but then commanded his special people to kill the Canaanites and the Amalekites. But take just the men, right? Take the women and children as spoils of war. I don't think Christianity is the moral compass that you'd like to think it is. Addressing the voluntary nature of the bill, he continues, it is not an unfunded mandate heaped onto schools like many of the other laws passed by the legislature. This is an option for local school boards to decide if their community would like. They are allowed to bring God back to their local schools.
I would just be so much better if we would just bring Dr. Seuss back to our local schools. Like, put up signs on the wall that say, oh, the places you will go.
Right.
Or, what's the other one? I mean, use things that actually inspire children, because I don't think that that's going to inspire anybody.
Right. The good news, if there is any good news, is that there is a hefty Democratic majority in the Illinois legislature.
Dan, I love you.
So hopefully this thing will die before it even gets started. Dan's ready for a break.
Yeah, but then he says, because it is. How did you know? Because I was drinking it very obviously. I was trying to hint to Sarah that my glass is empty. I have to turn it upside down to drink it.
Yeah, no, I got
You got it lined up?
no signals.
No. Well, you weren't paying attention to me very well then.
Let me see. How many stories we got left?
I'll do this next time.
Okay. She's rubbing me with her foot. Dangerous. Okay, I got one more story and then we'll take a break. How about that?
Okay.
Okay. Because I could use some more ice.
Me too.
For
my glass
rum.
is completely empty.
So finally, then, there's movement from the atheist corner when it comes to these Project Blitz bills, and you've heard me screaming about it for well over a year now. And while the religious rights effort to install a Christian subroutine in the state governments is well organized and well funded, the opposition so far has been kind of scattered. Well, yesterday, 43 national organizations released a joint statement in opposition to Project Blitz legislation. Here's the statement. Religious freedom is a fundamental American value. It is a shield that protects everyone, the religious and non-religious alike. Yet, an alarming effort is underway to harness the power of the government to impose its faith onto everyone else, including our public school students. This effort seeks to transform religious freedom into a sword that can be used to harm others, undermining important civil rights protections and healthcare access, especially for women, LGBTQ people, those of minority faiths, and the non-religious. We are united against these efforts. In particular, we opposed Project Blitz, it's 3 years old at this point, a new and coordinated national effort to enshrine Christian nationalism in state laws across the country. Project Blitz promotes a three-tiered framework of state bills meant to incrementally redefine religious freedom and tear down the separation of church and state, with each tier laying the groundwork for the next. This framework starts by pushing what its authors believe will be less controversial measures, such as requiring "In God We Trust" to be posted on public schools. Using those bills as a foothold, it then seeks to pass more dangerous legislation, like bills that would allow taxpayer-funded agencies to turn away couples seeking to foster or adopt children in need of stable and loving homes because they are same-sex or the wrong religion. Let me break out of the letter here to say that, and that happened this week when the Trump administration supported South Carolina's exemption, or religious exemption waiver. There was this may be a later story, I don't even remember. But there was an adoption agency that wanted to refuse service to gay people and Jewish people because of their Christian faith, and so they applied for a religious exemption waiver, and the Trump administration was like, "Yep, approved."
Yeah.
The separation of church and state, however, is the linchpin of religious freedom and a hallmark of our democracy. It ensures that each person has the right to choose whether to practice a religion or be non-religious without pressure from the government. It safeguards houses of worship from intrusion by the government and, at the same time, prevents religious institutions from harnessing the power of the government to impose their religion on others. It protects parents who want to send their children to public schools without fear that they will be proselytized or forced to pray according to someone else's faith tradition. And it prohibits the government from allowing the use of religion to evade laws that protect civil rights and access to health care, including reproductive health care. Therefore, we urge legislators across the country to oppose Project Blitz and similar legislative efforts. America and religious freedom are stronger when the government gives no religion or set of beliefs more power or preference than any other, and when everyone is welcome and treated equally under the law. Well put. And you think, gosh, the atheist groups are, finally coming together, right? But if you're out there listening to this, and you're a believer, thanks for listening. Don't know how you put up with me.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
We have some.
We do. We love them.
And you support the idea that government and religion need to be separated for all of our own good. You have to speak up too.
Yeah.
Now, some of the 43 organizations include names you'd expect to hear, like the ACLU, American Atheists, Americans United, Freedom from Religion Foundation, and Secular Coalition for America. But there are some you might not have expected, proving my point. African American Ministers in Action, Alliance of Baptists, Baptist Joint Committee for Religious Liberty, Catholics for Choice, the Episcopal Church, Muslim Advocates, the National Council of Jewish Women, the United Methodist Church, General Board and Church and Society. And there's many more. Unlikely bedfellows? Maybe not. And again, there are faith leaders out there who understand that a government that is neutral towards religion is protective of them. What is it we always hear from the extreme religious right? Like, what's the one thing they're always fucking terrified of? That the Muslims are coming and they're going to put Sharia law in. Right? They're running for office. They're going to take over our country. We're going to have Sharia law. Now, that's a wild conspiracy theory. But if you believe it could actually happen, then can you see how maintaining the separation of religion and government would be critical to preventing that from happening?
Mm-hmm.
If you pave the road for the United States and state governments to provide exemptions preferencing Christianity, you've made the path where any religious belief that might come along later can use that road to install their own stuff and throw yours out. I'm so glad to finally see some movement on this issue. 3 years that we've been watching this Project Blitz thing, and
it's horrifying every turn. Like, all the stuff they're putting into play, it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. But
it's
we
all
keep wondering,
fear-mongering.
like, what is the response? What are we going to do about this? How do we counter this stuff? And so I'm glad to see that there is finally some coordinated response from particularly the atheist community, but also this coalition. I think that's great. Okay, let's do this. Let's take a break. When we come back, do you remember when we broadcast at Polk Pride every year and we bitch about that Confederate statue in the middle of the park? Well,
I do.
There's movement on that issue too, and we'll talk about that. And then I've got a couple more stories, I think, and then we'll do a Florida Man, and that'll be it. I'm going to go fill up the cup with some ice, and we'll be back. You're listening to Sarah Talk.
I was feeling so alone.
I'm glad I asked for help. Whatever it is, ask for help.
If you're thinking about suicide or need support, call the Trevor Lifeline at 1-866-488-7386.
You let Jesus into your heart. Now it's time to bring him into your home with Flat Jesus. Take photos of Flat Jesus in questionable situations and share with the hashtag FlatJesus. Take pictures of Flat Jesus watching the Smurfs on TV. Hang him on a cross. He won't mind. Flat Jesus on your 3-year-old's toddler potty reading the Quran? That's fucking hilarious. But don't wait, apostates. Download your very own Flat Jesus right now at SarahTalk.com/Jesus. That's SarahTalk.com/Jesus now for your free Flat Jesus. The Bible says the earth is flat. Maybe Jesus was too.
Hello, my friends. This is Sister Mary Atheist of the Church of Religious Avoidance down here in Bumblefuck, Alabama. Now, my friends, my people, my brothers and sisters, do you feel lost? Do you feel that swelling urge to be a part of something better? Well, Let the word of SarahTalk help you. If you've never known the word SarahTalk, learn it, live it, love it. Can I get an amen? No? Good, 'cause we don't do that shit round here. My friends, we must all remember that the good word of SarahTalk doesn't happen for free. So get yourself over to patreon.com/SarahTalk and help us spread the word. Plant that seed and help it grow into secular, peer-reviewed empirical evidence for the good of all. In the name of the Sarah, the Becca, and the science-based podcast, amen, hallelujah, and holy shit.
Hey you, this is John from the Wayward Willis, and you are listening to the SarahTalk podcast. You know who else is listening? God. He's listening, and he's pissed. He has to send Jesus out of the room because of all the fucking profanity. Clean up your act, SarahTalk. You make baby Jesus cry.
Welcome back to SarahTalk. Thank you, John. Hey, before we get back into the show, I want to throw out a special thank you to all of our wonderful patrons. Your financial support keeps the show going, and I'm still shocked that anybody listens to this thing, and so I appreciate you very much. In fact, let me tell you what you've done for us lately. I ordered a mobile recorder, so I was going to do something more permanent here in the studio because we've been having weird computer shutdowns and stuff. And so if you've been listening to the show on the feed, the audio is kind of weird in some places. That's why. And so I ordered a portable recorder that we can also take with us to events and do recordings and stuff there too. So thank you for buying us a
yes, much appreciated.
New recorder.
We'll have a lot of fun with that on the go.
If you want to become a patron, you can go to patreon.com/SarahTalk for as little as $1 an episode, and you get access to all of our shows early, and sometimes when we have time, we do special patron-only things that we started the snake handling guy thing, and then
life got in the way.
What the fuck happened? It just didn't.
Well,
sorry, didn't happen. But
it's been a rough few months.
What happened was I got hit.
Yeah,
that's what happened.
And
we can't talk about that. By the way,
and we're still not back to normal. By the way,
no, we still only have one vehicle.
Okay. Anyway.
I was looking up. We have some new patrons.
Oh, okay.
But you can vamp while I'm loading it
up. Anything to vamp. Victoria says, "Oh, another thing. Are you going to be at Polk Pride or Orlando Pride this year? If so, when are they?"
That is a great question, and we can answer those.
We will be there.
Yes.
We will be there.
Yes. We're not going to Orlando Pride.
Well, we're going to go.
Well, yeah,
I'm going to Orlando Pride. Like I said last year, I'm going with or without Sarah. This year, if she decides to go, she's taking the night off of work.
Yes, absolutely. No, we'll go as guests.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
We're not going to go necessarily. Well, we're not doing Orlando Pride ever again. As SarahTalk, we decided the first time we did that was way too much.
Yep, that is not going to happen.
Polk Pride is going to be a little different this year.
Yeah, so normally we do a booth for the show. Last year was a little overwhelming because
we didn't even get a lunch break.
Yeah. And it's only, it's 10 to 3. It's not like Orlando is like a 5-day thing.
Oh, yeah.
This is, not kidding.
It is.
This is like 10 to 3 at the park, and that's it, right? Which I like,
right.
Because as someone who doesn't start the day with very many spoons, like I appreciate that there's a limit.
We did have one helper, but we had 2 kids, and so it was still overwhelming, and it was an election year, and it was just really busy. And so we've been talking, and maybe we won't do a live broadcast.
Right. We'll have the mobile recorder so that we can record if we want to.
Yeah.
But we're not going to set up our booth this year. Well, and also like
There's
we were dragging like all of this. I had to pack the studio down and take it with us.
It was crazy.
Anyway, but we will be there. The atheist community of Polk County. We are going to have a booth for the group for the atheist community of Polk County.
Yes.
So we'll have a table for that, and again, because like we need to send this message of like, look, when equal rights, when equality is under attack, atheists have to be there.
Dan, you're horrible. He says all you have to do is load up the recording equipment in the Jeep and... Oh, wait, never mind.
Dan. All right, block. And block.
Don't block Dan. Dan's our, like, amazing research guy, just because he forgot that you don't know.
Yeah, right? So anyway, we'll be at Polk Pride. It's June 15th.
Yes,
Saturday,
10 to 3,
June 15th,
Munn
10 to
Park
3.
again. I'm surprised.
Yeah,
because they sold the spots out
I'll be
very
surprised
fast.
if this isn't the year that they outgrow
They're
it.
going to have to. I mean,
Yeah.
there was space to grow. Last year, I felt like there were some spots that they could have had people set up. Or they could have set up a little differently, but I don't know.
Before we get back into the news, Becca's going to welcome our newest patrons.
Really?
Yes.
You're such a bitch. I totally unprepared. Okay, should I read Welcome Back to SarahTalk?
No, just
sure.
Shut up.
Okay. All right, so, man.
Uh-huh.
Where do I start?
I circled it. It's just these two the names of the people that have joined Patreon since last week.
Are you giving this to me because you don't know how to say that?
Because I'll butcher it.
Wow, that's horrible. You could have at least written it in a font I could understand. Okay.
Here,
Keith?
It's on the screen, too.
Keith, thank you, Keith. Hi, Keith. That's easy to say, obviously. I'm going to go ahead and say that's Schuler, and it rhymes with Mueller.
Good on you.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you so much for becoming patrons.
It's amazing.
And we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. Send us an email. You have a phone number. You could call and leave a message.
I am so happy. We have had a lot of people start sending us in like news stories and Florida Man stuff, and I love it. That's fantastic. Keep that up. Okay, what were we doing?
Well, Victoria asked about Polk Pride.
Okay, got it.
So we were talking about
Munn
that.
Park.
You were telling me to vamp because you were getting...
I'm done.
You were trying to figure out how to pronounce that name, apparently, and then you just gave up.
No, I had to look it up. Okay, so I want to talk about a local story.
Oh, yeah. This is a good segue.
So this comes out of our local paper, The Ledger, and every year when we broadcast from Lakeland at Munn Park, and we do the Polk Pride thing, like every year we bitch about this Confederate statue in the middle of the park. Now, it's not a large park. I mean, it is a, like, circle kind of hub with, 4 spokes?
Yeah, it's not big at all.
It's not big. And right in the middle is this Confederate statue.
Highly offensive.
So there has been some movement on this issue. The city of Lakeland voted in December 2017 to move the statue from the public park less than a mile to Veterans Memorial Park, where there are other monuments to veterans of other wars. Right? It's better there.
Yeah, sure.
And they voted not to use taxpayer dollars to pay for the move. Instead, they decided to use $225,000 from red light camera citation funds.
So guess what?
Of which we have both contributed
to that.
Oh, shit.
It's because you live in Polk County. Every light is a red light camera.
Well, right outside our neighborhood they all are. So several citizens and groups have filed a lawsuit, including the creator of the Confederate heritage website Southern War Cry, a lieutenant commander of the local Sons of the Confederate Veterans chapter, and director of Save Southern Heritage Incorporated, and Veteran Monuments of America, Inc. They argued that moving the monument violated the First and 14th Amendments because the monument, quote, communicated minority political speech in a public forum, and that it violated due process rights, the City of Lakeland's Historic Preservation Ordinance, and the public trust. Well, U.S. District Judge Virginia Hernandez Covington dismissed the case and wrote in her decision, because the cenotaph and its removal are government speech, plaintiffs do not have a legally protected interest in that speech, and their First Amendment claim fails as a matter of law. Right? Because the monument is on public property, therefore it's public speech, not private speech. She dismissed 2 other federal issues and declared several other claims as a state matter. She continued, quote, "The government's freedom to speak for itself includes choosing not to speak and speaking through the removal of speech that the government disapproves." The Confederate Advocate's attorney said he will file an appeal, hoping to set some precedent nationwide about the limitation on local governments being made to move things. Here's the thing. Does it matter if your fucking giant statue to slavery is in the middle of this park or that park? Does it fucking matter? If there's a place that is designed to, like, memorialize veterans of many wars that have been fought in our nation's history.
Right.
That sounds like the perfect place for a Confederate monument.
Sure.
Again, we're not trying to erase your biggity, hateful, racist white history. What we're trying to do is put it in its proper place. It deserves a place in the museum, not in the public square.
And all this bickering over who pays for what, listen. The county has a division that is paid with, I'm sure it's tax dollars that pay out the paychecks of the people that drive around the city and clean up dog shit out of public parks. So I'm not calling this Confederate statue dog shit, but somebody had to move it.
Mm-hmm.
The same as the dog shit. Somebody's got to move it. Somebody's got to pay for it. Stop bickering about where the money's coming from and just do it.
Right. And again, they could be taking it from tax
Right.
money.
Like, I'm glad they found a good use for this red light camera money.
Right.
But why did it take so long? Like they've been fighting about this for how many years?
Yeah. But I think that was the responsible thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
To go, okay, look, we're not just going to take this out of a general tax fund.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to find another way to fund this thing.
Yeah. And that money just sits there, and it's been racking up, apparently.
Well, I don't know what else they use that for. But
I don't know, but I mean, if they had, what was it, $200,000?
It was the same amount that Kim Davis needs to pay for her.
Maybe that's what they should do up there. Get some red light cameras.
Jesus Christ.
Fun time.
Okay, the last story that I have here.
What?
I know. Oh, hold on. What's Victoria got there?
Okay. I wonder if all of these Confederate states, how many have statues of Union generals?
Right? Fair is fair.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. 0.
None of them. Do you want to know why? Because they're sore losers.
So, the last story that I have here, and I apologize, I'm not going to be able to put this on screen for those of you watching live on the Facebook. Haven't quite figured out how to make the audio go back and forth yet. But Harry Brewis, YouTube star also known as H Bomber Guy, was raising money for Mermaids, a UK nonprofit that supports children with gender dysphoria, by streaming a marathon of him playing Nintendo 64 classic Donkey Kong 64 on Twitch. After nearly 58 hours, he finally defeated the game that he had regretted never beating as a kid, and in the process raised over $340,000 for Mermaids. Brewis explained, "I chose to support this charity because as a person living in Britain, I find the media discussion surrounding this issue in my country, especially in its tabloids, to be woefully misinformed. I'd like to do my bit to help support the people who do the hard work of contributing to people's thinking on an important issue." Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, in a January 20 Twitter rant, called out screenwriter Aaron Sorkin, who said that young Democrats needed to, quote, stop acting like young people, criticizing them for focusing on issues like transgender bathrooms. She responded to the young people dig, but ended the rant saying, quote, "Lastly, we wouldn't need to talk about restrooms at all if we acted like adults, washed our hands, and minded our own business instead of trying to clock others. Going by track record, I'd feel safer in a bathroom with a trans woman than a powerful male executive any day of the week."
Mm-hmm.
Sick burn.
Right? This girl is on fire.
Then she added to the thread, tweeting support for Mermaids and Brewis' live stream. And that's amazing. But Twitch viewers were treated then to a surprise cameo around the 50-hour mark of the stream, proving that she is the most relatable legislator in these United States. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez logged in and, well, have a listen.
By the way, you're over 50 hours now.
Over 50 hours of this!
Well done. You're also at 17,000 viewers.
That's more viewers than I've actually had hot dinners. Alexandria has retweeted. Oh my god.
Oh my god!
Yeah, she.
Okay, so
yeah.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has joined the Discord server.
What?
Oh my!
No, this is a trick. This is a trick. They're not real. It can't. No.
I'm back, by the way. I've returned.
It's got. She's got the official posing in front of the flag, posing in front of the background like official photo shoot picture.
Oh. Oh my! I was going to introduce my.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Hello?
Hi.
Hey, how's it going? Hey, I'm well. How are you all?
It's hello. It's fantastic to meet you. Would you like to introduce yourself in case some people don't know who you are?
Oh, hello?
Hello.
Hello.
We
Yes,
can hear
we
you.
can.
I gotcha.
What's up?
Would you like to introduce yourself? I'm sure chat is going wild. They know who you are, but yeah,
just I want it on the
all of
record.
us, give us,
I need to know.
Of course, everyone. My name is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I am the Congresswoman for New York's 14th Congressional District.
Thank you so much
It's
for
a pleasure to
joining
meet
us
you.
today.
It's a
Likewise.
pleasure to meet you.
Likewise. Thank you. Thank you to Chelsea for giving me the heads up and inviting me.
Oh
Yeah,
gosh.
Yeah.
I committed so much voter fraud for you.
Sorry?
Nothing.
It's like, no, just kidding.
Amazing. It's wow. How is it going over there? The government is like shut down. Longest shutdown in history.
The government is currently shut down. It's the longest shutdown in American history.
Which is why she has time to play Donkey Kong with you.
I remind you, they're on a live stream on Twitch watching a dude play Donkey Kong for 50 hours. If that's not the most relatable thing on the planet, I don't know
now
what is.
in this, yeah.
Right?
Our TSA airport workers are not getting paid. Our FDA food inspectors are not getting paid. We have folks showing up to NASA that are not paid, and they're showing up for free just to keep, basic vital systems to keep our astronauts alive, continuing. And so it's kind of a mess right now. And we're doing everything that we can.
Well, keep fighting. I think what you're doing is phenomenal, and I'm glad that the Democrats haven't caved, because it's a big thing to cave on, and it's good.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's an
Thank
issue
you.
because regardless of whether it's for a wall or for anything else, the whole point is that if we caved on this, no matter what the request was, then we're basically legitimizing the tactic of holding people's paychecks hostage. And
Then they
so-
can do it again whenever they want. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For any agenda point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not only that, but now kids are yelling, build a wall to indigenous people, and clear that it's just this whole wall notion is just a symbol for something else.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's absolutely
it's
right.
It's a gigantic monument to white supremacy, effectively.
Exactly.
Even in the UK, they get it.
Right?
Yeah. This is just, and the Discord
Oh,
chat,
it's crazy.
People are going nuts.
Exactly. And it's just, I applaud you all for the organizing that you're doing, because the best way that we fight against tactics like that is not just resistance, but by actively supporting and advancing the communities that need advocacy the most. So I really appreciate you and everyone who's joining you today.
Yeah,
Well,
H-bomb, did you think that it was going to get to this point?
I maybe have fantasized about anything remotely like this ever happening in my life, and even they have not compared to what has happened. It's been amazing, and just wow. Could I get you to say trans rights?
Pardon me?
Yes, could I say trans rights, please? I know there's a lot of people in the chat who would love to hear it.
Trans rights, absolutely. It's a no-brainer. Trans rights are civil rights, are human rights.
Woo! Thank you so much for saying that.
There's this brilliant part coming up where he's like, all right, this is really interesting, but I have to ask you, do you know how to fucking beat this level? Because I've been stuck on it for hours.
Oh, God.
Thank you so much.
I've actually got a question to kind of bounce off of that.
Sure.
So you have done an absolutely stellar job over the last just few weeks, barely a month, taking the 70% tax rate and turning it from an abstract concept into a specific policy that the public understands and supports.
Yeah.
Is there anything on the docket in terms of like trans policy, making use of that same momentum to help the public understand actionable policy goals for trans rights?
Mm-hmm. I think that's an excellent question. It's an interesting one as well, because when we're talking about actually just fighting for equal protection, it's not as though we're trying to advance a specific policy as much as it is it's more of, I feel like a lot of the times it's the war that we're having is a cultural one, much more than just than a marginal tax rate is. So what we really need to do and show, I think, which I think we're starting to do, is have this conversation a lot more in our culture. And so, for so long, I would say that Democrats in the United States have operated from a defensive place for a very, very long time. And what we're doing is just kind of going on the offensive. Like I just tweeted today that in the United States, we wouldn't have to talk about bathrooms at all if everyone just washed their hands and minded their own business.
Amazing. What an idea.
And so I think that a lot of what we need to do is put things into perspective, but also continue to reassert that equal rights means equal rights. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you're wearing. It doesn't matter how you identify. And, in terms of legislation, we can legislate protections or legislate, and this is actually a question that we've had recently, not just specifically to the trans community, but there was legislation that a Democrat was trying to propose that was essentially a protection for our immigrant community, and but it was a constitutional protection, I believe, and so we actually didn't co-sponsor it, and we actually pushed back on it, because introducing legislation that pretty much already reasserts what's in the Constitution makes it feel like it's up for debate, like if they voted if they voted if they voted down the law, it would almost make the constitutional guarantee seem less valid.
Right? So that's like what we talked about earlier with the passing equal protections for LGBT people here in Florida. Like you're absolutely right. Like that, again, it's making it as if it's a debatable issue.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
and pass the fucking Equality Act already. Like,
just do it.
But I get her point of like, the reason the Equality Act keeps failing is because we are not winning the culture war. We have not gone out into the communities and convinced enough people that like the scary trans person in the bathroom is not an issue.
Right.
The letting trans people who aren't scary into the bathrooms will allow scary men who want to pretend to be trans people to go in. None of that's real.
Yeah.
We haven't, that battle has not been won, and until we get enough of the public to come around to that, then the Equality Act is probably going to still, meet a lot of resistance. I just want to watch a couple more minutes of this.
We actually pushed back against it, even though that it may seem kind of like a twisted logic or counterintuitive of sorts. But we actually pushed back against it because we said we don't want to have a debate about what is already settled.
Once you put that stuff up for discussion, that's bad. Yeah.
Exactly. And so really what what I think we have to reassert is that when we say that equal rights for all, we mean equal rights for all, no asterisks, exceptions, fine print, nothing. And
this is so fantastic to hear, and I'm glad we got you on. I'd love to talk more about trans rights and the marginal tax rate, but I would also, I need to ask, do you know how to turn on the power in Frantic Factory in Donkey Kong 64? Because I've been here for hours and I don't know how to do it.
Do not. I'm sorry. Donkey Kong 64 is outside of my wheelhouse.
But again, to be the most relatable person in politics.
Well, that's okay. Your wheelhouse is really, really good. I just, you've lost my vote. No, this is fine. Please continue.
I never owned an N64, though I do think it's probably the best system out of all of them. I never owned an N64, but I used to go to my cousin's house all the time, and she had Super Mario 64, Pokemon Snap, and probably a handful of other things.
Yes!
And that's probably all I know how to play.
Pokemon Snap was fantastic. Please, what you were saying was really important. I said that was a poor taste joke. Please do continue.
It's so good. If you got a chance to watch the whole thing, watch the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's so good. But, that's what I want in my politician.
Right?
Sure.
Let's sit down and talk while we play video games.
Hell yeah. Go to the people where they are.
Yeah.
Right? Make those connections.
I love it.
I agree, Victoria. This woman will be running for president someday.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Faux show. Guaranteed.
Was it 2024? No, she's probably still too young by then.
Yeah. Okay, with that, then let's move into The Florida Man, brought to you by our top patrons, part-time patron Russell, Mandy Imus, rhymes with Schmamerd Schmillis, a.k.a. John of the Wayward Willis podcast, Lamont, and our unofficial researcher, Dan.
Well, you know what they say. All the best stories start with... Florida man, 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 Florida. And sometimes a Florida woman.
Several of you sent in this story. Peter Emery Jr., 56, was caught on camera opening a lockbox containing pills, grabbing one labeled hydrocodone acetaminophen, and taking a few. He was arrested last Thursday and charged with petty theft. When a Pinellas Park police officer confronted him, he admitted to taking 2 pills, but threw the rest in the garbage when he found out that what he thought was hydrocodone was just Equate brand over-the-counter gentle laxatives, which are marketed to be, quote, ideal for resolving constipation or minor cases of indigestion.
Hydrocrap zone. Instead of hydrocodone. Hydrocrap zone.
Becca's digging for titles for
I
these
really
because
am.
I didn't
she
make
told
any
me
up.
I don't have titles, and then she wouldn't tell me what the stories were, so I haven't had any time to come up with good ones. I'm
the second
gonna do
story
this on the fly.
Tonight, a Florida woman is facing charges of second-degree murder and abuse of a dead human body after she allegedly killed her boyfriend last summer, cut up his body, and then lived with the corpse pieces in an RV until late December.
What?
Investigators believe 47-year-old Penny Pospisil killed 55-year-old Anthony Mitchell last August at an RV park in Sumter County and then moved the camper and the remains to Brevard County in September. She told police she was a victim of domestic violence and only killed him in self-defense. But she had gone to great lengths to hide what she did. She told friends, family, and neighbors that Mitchell had died of natural causes and his body had been cremated, but neighbors noticed a terrible odor coming from the trailer. Police noticed the odor, too, as they searched the trailer in December and discovered the dismembered body in the advanced stages of decomposition.
Oh, my God.
See why I haven't written headlines for these?
Why would you even
The final story.
That's gross.
Police arrested 20-year-old Zane Alexander Carlson on suspicion of trespassing and criminal mischief after police say he rammed his car through a fence and onto an active runway at Pensacola International Airport. Pensacola PD spokesperson Mike Wood said Carlson drove onto the active runway at speeds near 100 miles per hour and then into a grassy area where he did donuts in his car. Then drove into an open hangar where he continued to do donuts inside the hangar until police caught up to him. Wood said, quote, "We don't know what he was thinking. The best we have from him is he just felt like driving on the runway."
Was he high or was he trying to fly?
No. No drugs or alcohol involved in the story. Tonight, you have a story of a guy who mistook some pills. Oh, shit.
Oh, shit.
That's not hydrocodone.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
You have a story of a Florida woman who allegedly killed her boyfriend and then kept the pieces of his rotting body in an RV as she traveled around Florida. And a 20-year-old who drove onto an active runway to do donuts.
All right, I think the hydrocodone story wins, and I think you should call it "It All Comes Out in the End."
Well.
Just telling you what I'm voting for.
I think that's my story too, because there's got to be a follow-up to this, right? Like, where's the camera footage of the after, right? Like, I took some of these pills, and then he's like shitting all over the place.
Right.
I want to see that story.
Keith says, "Do pills for the win." Russell says, "I vote for it all comes out in the end." And Dan says, "Second story title, Bit O' Honey." I don't think that was what. Bit O' Honey, get it? Okay, that's gross. I don't think he was voting for that story. I think he was just giving you a title.
Giving it a name? Okay, that's fine. I mean, it's not like we count the votes anyway. I've gotten so lazy I don't even post
But I
it in
judge
the
you
group.
for who you vote for.
Now people are gonna stop voting.
Anna says Dookie story.
Jesus.
Oh well, it's a crappy story. What can I tell you?
Oh my God, you all need help.
I can't help it.
Actually,
Victoria voted for body parts.
I need help. Help me. Next week. Let's wrap this thing up. I gotta pee and I'm ready to go to bed. Dan's not voting.
I wasn't serious. I won't judge you, Dan. I've already judged you. I like you.
Next week, we are going to be talking to a couple of guys from the Spectrum Arts Society. They are putting on the first ever Pride event in Lynchburg, Virginia.
Whoa.
Right? Like stone's throw from Liberty University. Wow. Yeah. So that'll be fun. Can't wait to talk to them about that.
I wish we could go to that. Have to wear Kevlar and show up in a tank, probably just to be safe.
So that'll be next week. In the meantime, we'll miss you. We'll be back Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on the Facebook Live. You've been listening to SarahTalk.
SarahTalk is made possible by listener support. Visit patreon.com/SarahTalk to become a patron and help keep this program going. Contact Sarah and Company by email at producer@sarahtalk.com or call 224-40-SARAH. That's 224-407-2724. And follow us on social media, facebook.com/SarahTalkRadio and on Twitter @SarahTalkRadio. The opinions and information provided on this show are intended for entertainment purposes only. All opinions are solely that of the hosts and their guests. We make no representations as to accuracy, completeness, timeliness, or validity of any information and will not be liable for any errors or damages. SarahTalk is a production of Sarah Austin Media.